So that's a question we get a lot. Does FUPO or do the Furman University Police need probable cause to do a room search? And so the short answer is yes, we are police officers, and so the Fourth Amendment applies. And so when we contact students, it's under various circumstances. 9 times out of 10, it's because we've gotten a call, some kind of a complaint. We respond, and first thing we do is we knock on the door, and it's a consensual contact. We talk to the students, see what's going on. If they're not given consent to search, then the next step would be, is there probable cause? Do the officers have probable cause to obtain a search warrant? And so what that looks like is, do the officers suspect, or do they have reason to think that maybe there's underage consumption of alcohol going on? Maybe they recognize a student who's underage and they see him holding a beer, or perhaps they smell marijuana or something like that. That might be the basis for probable cause. And what they would do is they would freeze, what we call freezing the premises. And that just means we don't let anybody do anything that would destroy potential evidence that's there while we go to a local magistrate, tell the magistrate or judge what our probable cause is, and see if they will sign a search warrant.
So residences have been trained to enforce the student conduct code, and of course one of the policies is our alcohol policy. So I would restate that in a little different way. They can enforce the policy, they confront a situation and have been trained how to do that. They document what they see, make sure any violation ceases. So if there's, for example, students drinking underage, their job is to get that to stop, get rid of the alcohol, document the situation, and then that report is submitted to my office, and then a student conduct board will determine the outcome of the situation. So the RAs don't, in and of themselves, issue alcohol violations to students. They just document situations, and then our student conduct process will handle the rest.
So yes and no. So all students are arranged into pre-registration groups based on their anticipated graduation date. So first year students, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And that is not affected by CLP status. But within each of those windows, students who are on track with their CLPs do get the earlier registration time. So they get to pre-register for courses in the following semester earlier. 32 CLPs to graduate, so students who keep pace by completing 4 or more a semester are then able, within each window, to select their courses earlier than students who are behind.
The student CLPs, GPA, and student conduct history are not a part of the housing lottery process.
We wish. We do not have millions of dollars. If so, Beyonce would have been the concert pretty much every year. So no, unfortunately not millions of dollars, much smaller budget. So we do what we can, but
Absolutely, anything that creates reflective fog or vapor or dust particles, because our smoke detectors are photoelectric, so they work basically on light reflecting off of anything that's gray. So it could be water vapor from a shower, dust from a vacuum cleaner bag that kind of pops off the vacuum, any kind of smoke, haze, vapor, dust, anything like that that's light gray, especially unreflective.
Attendance policies at Furman are determined by each professor and stated in the syllabus. So the first answer to the question about how many absences it takes before you fail is that it depends on the course, it depends on the professor, and it depends on the syllabus attendance policy. Our catalog gives each professor full freedom over their attendance policies. If nothing else is stated, the university attendance policy is that first-year students are withdrawn from a class with a grade of F after missing 15% of class meetings, and upper class students are withdrawn from a class with a grade of F after missing 25% of class meetings. And for the university policy, there's no distinction between excused or unexcused absences. So for a sophomore, junior, or senior, if you miss more than 25% of the course, you could be dropped from the course at that time with a grade of F. But if your professor on the syllabus indicates that you're dropped from a course with a grade of F after 3 absences or after 4 absences, then that's the policy that stands. Both policies can also be in effect at the same time. So sometimes professors will indicate that you start to get penalized after a certain number of absences, but you won't fail until you reach the university maximum.
So we get a lot of questions. That's probably one of the most controversial things about FUPO is the infamous Officer 21 and parking enforcement. And I wish, I see parking enforcement as a necessary evil. Nobody likes parking enforcement. We need a certain level of parking enforcement just to kind of keep all of us honest, myself included. And so we don't have any quotas. Our goal really is just to have what I call that amount of parking enforcement that kind of keeps everybody honest. And so we don't generate, when you look at revenue generated, one of the things we hear is Furman police benefit from it, or the Furman University rakes in millions of dollars from parking fines, and that nothing could be further from the truth. Usually in an average year it's less than a few $100,000 that's brought in, and then that's offset by the cost of paying Officer 21 to go out there and do parking enforcement, or the cost for the ticketing system and the software. We have a parking traffic and parking review board that meets and hears appeals for parking tickets. And so when you look at the costs of parking enforcement and managing parking on campus versus the amount that is brought in fines and revenues, it's really it's not a lucrative thing. It's not a profit-making thing for Furman University.
Students who are married are eligible for the married exemption, allowing them to live off campus.
The infirmary cannot excuse absences. So when the Student Health Center determines that a student is experiencing symptoms or a health condition that should require them to be away from class, notification goes out to the student and to the professors as soon as the health professional raises that notification. The text of that message indicates to the professor that there should be, to whatever extent possible, flexibility and accommodation with the absence or the absences because the student is dealing with a legitimate health issue. But since professors determine the parameters of their syllabus attendance policies, we don't want another office on campus excusing an absence because a professor might not distinguish between excused or unexcused. When students are facing really extreme or severe health emergencies or personal emergencies or family situations, different offices around campus are in touch with me, and in those cases I do ask professors to relax or suspend their attendance policies because of the circumstances that the student's facing at the time. So the health center can't excuse an absence, but they can document and verify for a professor that an absence is legitimate. One of the reasons they can't excuse it is if you happen to be sick, for example, on the day of a group presentation that you've been working towards for weeks or months, then an excused absence because you're not well might not actually be feasible in that situation. But again, the professor is notified so that they know that you're not doing well and that flexibility and accommodation are needed if at all possible.